There had been a lot of speculation about whether this stabbing happened inside the club, outside the club, or perhaps down the street a block or so. But this is actually where that stabbing happened. Police are on the hunt for that suspect who left a big clue behind: his picture. I want you to take a look at how close we are to Cedar Grove Community School. We are literally just steps away from the school, and it's at that house that police say that Mr. Spalding was dealing drugs.
In the 911 tape, she sounds very frantic. She says, "My baby's missing, my baby's missing." But really, after that, we haven't heard from Lena Lunsford.
We have been able to talk to several neighbors in this area, and they were very quick to point out that this house has been the source of a lot of controversy in this area, that there had been some possible illegal activity going on inside, and that they've really been keeping an eye on what's going on over here. We have all heard time and time again those stories about the men and women in law enforcement being saved by their bulletproof vests. The fact that they wouldn't have been able to go home to their families if they were not wearing that vest the night of some tragedy. And this is where we need your help. The sad reality is that not all police departments can afford to outfit their officers with that body armor. So that is where you come in. But a litter of kittens was trapped inside, and that's when a very daring and brave firefighter went in just to save these little guys, and this is one of them right here, and they all need a home.
Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin is here to open up this special edition of the Fugitive Files. Leslie?
Elizabeth, we profiled 721 fugitives since the program launched in November 2007. You've stuck with us through 4 hosts, countless ride-alongs, and have made a tremendous effort to regain your neighborhoods. With your help and the cooperation of the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office and Charleston Police Department, perhaps the most shocking, that a Mingo County Commissioner goes on the record and says that he believes that the sheriff was targeted for his involvement in cracking down on drugs in the county, and he believes it's his personal belief that the sheriff had a bounty on his head. This murder created a series of events which ended in the closure of 14 schools today. Eyewitness News reporter Kenny Bass is live at the Kanawha County Board of Education to pick up the story from there. Kenny. Also accused of rigging the county's grand jury. Here's what he had to say as he left the courthouse this evening.
And the truth will be told, and I'll be acquitted.
Why do you believe that you'll be acquitted?
Because I'm not guilty.
Police were on scene searching this parking lot and the businesses all day for the suspect or any clues that he may have left behind. Their investigation even took them all the way down here by the Kanawha River.
Ferris says the state has spent $30 million over the last 5 years making schools safer, upgrading security systems to restrict access so that guns couldn't make their way into schools.
Do you think this is kind of doesn't make sense if you had a mask and a gun? And do you see why they think you wanted to rob the bank?
Yep, that's what we do.
And these were 3 men who were very well known in this area, and that's not because of Shane Gandy's newfound stardom, but because they were local boys. They grew up in Sissonville. Sissonville was their home. This is a top priority case as 30 school buses are heavily damaged in an overnight vandalism spree that essentially leaves taxpayers the final victims.
Who would do something like this?
The question on everyone's mind as police and school officials in Braxton County survey damage unlike anything they say they've ever seen.
Just every bus, there's something.
30 of the county's 32 buses targeted by vandals.
There's one bus that has 12 glasses busted out of it.
Windows shattered. Radios and video equipment destroyed.
It's just a horrible situation.
And those investigating stunned at the overnight damage that could top more than $100,000. 2 of the buses vandalized overnight were special needs buses used in Braxton County. You can now see the windows busted out of bus 90 and shattered glass lining the floors. Damage also inside the buses. Police believe fire extinguishers were used to bust the windows and then discharged before the vandals took off.
A fire extinguisher that was taken out of the bus, or one of the buses adjacent to this one, was actually protruding from the windshield of this bus here.
A top priority case for police as they work to find out who's responsible.
We're here to serve the kids. That's what this is all about. And all the decisions that we make in the county are for kids. So who would want to, do this kind of damage for kids? It's sad.
Reason why you wanted to escape prison?
Yeah.
I want to go see what my family was doing. They never right.
A prison break Larry Moorhead attributes to his family's lack of keeping in contact with him while he was serving time for sexual assault.
No one you care about right, so I just snapped.
Aided by convicted murderer Thomas Pennington, who killed a man in 1997, burned his car, and dumped his body in a South Charleston trash dump, the pair apparently slipped out of a bathroom window at the prison. Using a piece of metal fabricated with 2 strings, they were able to hold down the razor wire fence of the medium security facility.
I never dreamed that they would be in this area.
Faye Nicholas lives just across the street from where they were captured.
In front of my house.
She saw the emergency signs along the interstate urging drivers to not pick up hitchhikers, but never expected for them to be right in front of her home.
Nowadays, you never know.
Troopers got the call early Monday morning that the duo was spotted in the Richwood area, but it was here along Route 55 in Fenwick that their more than 30-mile journey from the facility came to an end.
So they traveled 39 mainly the whole way, and they'd get out on the road some, and they saw a vehicle, they'd jump over the guardrail and, lay in the ditch or whatever, and then whenever the car passed, they'd just get back on the road and kept walking.
I just wanted to leave.
Did you think you were going to get caught?
Yeah, I was going to turn myself in. I just want to see what my kids was doing. They never right.
The two now awaiting more letters from a maximum security prison. In Nicholas County, Leslie Rubin, Eyewitness News. For the first time since her husband was murdered, Diane Hacker McCullough is sharing her story exclusively with Eyewitness News. Her story of perseverance is inspiring, and we hope it will inspire you to give back. Behind every picture that hangs on the wall of the State Police Hall of Honor is a story. The story of a trooper who made the ultimate sacrifice. Behind the glass, the eyes of Larry Hacker watch as passerbys walk through. The 35th trooper to die protecting his fellow West Virginians. This is his story.
Everything a girl would ever want is what he was in a man.
Diane Hacker McCullough found love at a young age. She married her high school sweetheart when they were both 17, and soon they had 2 daughters. Her husband, Larry Hacker, was an avid outdoorsman who loved deer season more than any other time of the year. But above all, he was a Christian man, a father, and a loving husband.
He was just kind and always wanted to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And he was very trusting of people.
Always having an interest for law enforcement, Hacker worked as a night watchman at Glenville State University for about 8 years. But he had his eye on the state police. Testing 4 times to get into the academy, he was accepted in 1989, the second oldest in his class. He graduated at 30 years old.
He wanted something that was secure and sound and, I guess, respected.
Hacker was assigned to the State Police Detachment in Harrisville. It was a time when troopers had to buy their own bulletproof vests and handheld radios if they wanted them. Hacker owned a vest, but wasn't wearing it the night of April 8th, 1993. Hacker and a trooper he was training responded to a fight between neighbors in rural Ritchie County.
They were walking to the house, and the fellow was evidently in the woods or outside of the home with a gun. And when Larry came into view, he, fired at him.
Hacker had been shot. Dennis Ferguson then held officers at bay, running into the woods and continuing a 30-minute gun battle with police as they arrived on scene. He wouldn't even let paramedics near Hacker. They were finally able to reach him after Ferguson ran into the woods. Hacker was flown to a hospital. He died at 1 o'clock the next morning.
The new guy was, just out of the academy, and I'm sorry. I think about the guys that the justice happened to. I'm sorry. It's very hard to protect yourself when you're ambushed. The guys that just got killed, that happened to them. But
it was like real reality about what your job's about when you see something like it happen.
Chief Ron Barniak was a deputy in the county when Hacker was murdered. His death shining a light statewide on the need for police officers to be outfitted with bulletproof vests.
That could have been me.
Had he been wearing a vest and maybe turned 3 inches, one way or the other, that it could have prevented, the taking of his life.
Diane says she can vividly remember praying that night for God to spare her husband's life. But at that same moment, something else came to her mind, something that sticks with her even today, almost 20 years later.
The scripture that I had in my mind was that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord. And this was something that worked for good, because the state troopers now have department-issued vests, and they have handheld radios, and I think all law enforcement agencies are, or hopefully should be, working to improve what equipment that they have.
Even today, some agencies can't afford to outfit all of their officers with bulletproof vests. That's why we're working with the West Virginia Sheriff's Association to give back to the men and women who protect us every day.
They're out, working and doing their best to protect the public. And sometimes I think people do forget that.
And those fighting for justice for Aaliyah say they've been left in the dark by investigators.
1 year is unacceptable. We are talking about a 3-year-old child.
1 year later, and the mystery of what happened to Aaliyah Lunsford is just as strong as it was the day she vanished, frustrating her extended family who gathered outside the Lewis County Courthouse holding signs and hanging ribbons, desperate for answers.
I hoped and prayed that we would never be standing here for a year. It's so hard, a year and not knowing.
The small group of extended family has been at the forefront of the search for Aaliyah, even staging their own searches and praying for closure in a case that's rocked the entire community.
Aaliyah is what is important. She's a precious child of God that we need to find.
Not at the courthouse today, her mother, Lena Lunsford. She's serving an 8-month prison sentence for welfare fraud that was uncovered after Aaliyah's disappearance. Her stepfather, Ralph, still living in Lewis County, but neither has ever publicly made a plea for their daughter's return. Fingers have been pointed at the couple since day one, but the FBI has never publicly named them suspects. Bowen says an investigator in the case told her without their cooperation, the girl would likely never be found.
They're not going to confess. Where are the investigators? Where are the people that are trained and skilled to get these answers for us?
The family says they haven't received updates in months, saying their calls for inquiry and tips they personally receive often are ignored.
We get tips, and then they say, okay, turn them over, turn them over, turn them over. We turn them over, and it's just like we're a laughing stock.
Still, they hold out hope this case won't go cold and won't bring them back here next year, still begging for answers.